Oh no. Yes, this is how my Battlefield 6 Early Access Open Beta adventure started out on Thursday. Something that many PC players experienced alongside with the fact that many players also need to activate secure boot in their BIOS in order to play the BF6 Open Beta. That is related to the anti-cheat system in BF6 called Javelin anti-cheat that also got implemented into BF 2042. So if you're gonna play BF6 on PC during these two beta weekends, you gotta make sure that secure boot is enabled on your PC. When it comes to my error message that you just saw in the beginning of the video, that also made the game crash. I haven't really found a solution to this yet, since I do have the latest driver version installed on my PC. I'm by the way using an AMD Radeon RX 6800 graphics card, and I believe that DICE most likely haven't play tested BF6 on some of the older graphics cards, which might be the reason why this is happening, especially when it comes to AMD, although some Nvidia users have reported the same issue as well. Let's hope that there will be a fix for this soon. So, in order to get my first impressions video done and fixed, I had to restart the game quite a few times since the game crashed every now and then for me, which became frustrating since the initial queues on Thursday regarding the early access was well over 200k players waiting for to get into the game. So yeah, it took some time to get into the game at first. The situation did become better though over time during the day, and DICE have said that they'll add more servers. Maybe they've already done just that. It was also easy to close down your game by accident, just by pressing the spacebar when waiting for it to get into the game, meaning being in the queue to enter, since you don't get an option asking if you want to close down the game or not if you accidentally press the spacebar while waiting. So be aware of that so you don't press the spacebar if you're waiting in a queue to get into the game. It's so frustrating if it closed down the game. With that said, I had a pretty steady FPS when playing and the game felt smooth overall. I did though experience dying, for example, when getting around a corner once in a while, which do indicate some netcode issues in the beta so far. I'm referring to how the game handles player movement and actions over the network, such as delayed reactions, meaning dying around corners as said, and other inconsistencies between what players see and what the server registers. DICE is aware of these issues and are working on fixes. They are currently impacting gameplay for some users, according to EA. Since we're starting off the video with some of the somewhat negative impressions, if you will, I guess I need to start to mention the lack of a server browser. As you may have heard, DICE want to use Portal as the main to go to when it comes to a server browser, where people can choose what game and server they want to get into. I personally believe there should be a server browser in BF6, since DICE have said that they will add bots to those servers that aren't full. But we can't see that since it's happening automatically when we're in the queue for matchmaking without seeing how many people that are playing in that actual server. I believe that the player should be able to be in control when it comes to choosing what matches you want to get into. Because not having a server browser could down the line lead to empty lobbies, so there's a majority of bots in those servers instead of real players. No control over map rotation or game mode preferences, and no easy way to join servers in other regions if that's something you want to do. When it comes to gunplay, I do believe that the time to kill, meaning TTK in the beta, is a bit too fast, in my taste at least, especially up close. I do think the game would benefit if they turn down the TTK just a bit. It feels as if I'm playing one of the recent COD games when getting into close quarters. That doesn't necessarily mean that BF6 plays like COD close up, but it's less BF and more COD, if that makes sense, with a faster time to kill. Yes, less skilled players can get more kills with a faster TTK, which has been proven, and maybe that's what DICE and EA wants to achieve in order to appeal to even more players. Same thing that Activision has been going for recent years. Let's see what DICE decides to do. There are some smaller impressions or details, if you will, when it comes to weapons and attachments that I thought about when playing. And since I've been maining as a sniper in many games, I do believe that the sniper scope glare could be reduced a bit. It looked almost like a shooting star, to be honest, and of course it should be there, but hopefully they tone it down a notch, even if there's an attachment that does that to a certain extent. I also read that they want to remove the spawn beacon from the recon class and add it to the assault class instead. I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I kind of understand what they want to achieve here. They want to get rid of those guys spawning maybe up in a crane all the time, far back, not really helping out the team, being able to spawn on them closer to the objective. Or maybe a guy sitting far away, hard to access on a hill with a 12 times scope. But removing the spawn beacon from the recon class leaves the class a bit empty-handed, I believe, even though they have another option in mind. What are your thoughts about this? There's more to mention here, but I do want to get along also talking about what I've liked and enjoyed so far. So I'll now get into things that are in between the good and the bad for me, and that is the map design. The best map so far, and I think a lot of people have said it too in the beta, is Siege of Cairo, that I believe has worked really well when it comes to many of the game modes available. This is quite a hard thing to do, making a map that's going to work for different game modes. I know that some players have been criticizing the maps overall, saying that they are too small when it comes to larger game modes, especially such as Conquest. I can understand though what DICE is trying to achieve here by putting the objectives closer to each other compared to some of the bigger and older iconic maps in Battlefield 3 or BF4. I guess the smaller maps will have a bigger impact for those players that are enjoying to use vehicles in Battlefield when it comes to driving a tank or flying a helicopter or a jet. Let's see if DICE decides to add some bigger maps when the full game releases. As an infantry player, I didn't mind some of the shorter distances between the objectives. Now to the most important thing after all, since many of the things I've labeled as negative are mostly smaller things that aren't really game breaking for me, besides not having a server browser and the crashes I've had. And that is the fact that the beta is a lot of fun to play. The graphics are great, and the audio team at DICE is once more delivering a very immersive and cool experience when it comes to all the gun sounds, explosions, and environmental sounds when buildings are breaking apart, etc. I'm also glad to see that the classes are back, since that is a key component in my opinion when it comes to what defines a Battlefield game. In the beta so far, you can use all weapons available no matter what class you choose to play. But there's a playlist available where the guns are locked onto the classes, which means that you can, for example, use a sniper rifle when playing as a medic, which is basically how the older ODBF games were designed. I recommend everyone to try that playlist as well, so you can compare the differences. If you ask me, I prefer the old class system, having weapons locked into the different classes. It defines the classes even more, their roles on the battlefield, which also makes the differences between the classes even more distinct. Either way, depending on what DICE choose to do, I hope there will be an option to play BF6 the old school way also in the full game. When the full game releases, we'll have more weapons and maps available, so some thoughts and impressions might change after that. But the core gameplay we experience now in the beta is more or less what we'll get when the game releases, and BF6 has a big potential. I therefore hope that EA also played smart when it comes to the monetization in the game, not going over the top, since that can push potential players away from the game. Is BF6 already so good that you should pre-order the game? I say wait. Wait until after the release and see if there's any initial bugs or similar that they need to fix first before buying the game, and what other players are saying about the full game. But again, DICE has overall done a really good job so far, and I hope that we'll get an awesome new Battlefield game at launch in October. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm pretty sure that you might be one of those guys as well, especially if you come this far watching the video. Well, this was my early impressions of the BF6 beta, and I'm looking forward to play more, also when it comes to Weekend 2. Let me know your thoughts, of course, about Battlefield 6 so far as well in the comments, and thanks a lot for watching. Talk to you soon again in an upcoming video. Later.